you start to question your value. You start to question your self-worth.
Like, the more money you got, the more successful you are, and most people really do buy into that.
But really, I just needed a break.
What I love is helping people.
I'm Julie Bauke, and welcome to The Evolved Career, a podcast where we help you determine what truly does matter most to you and how it can have a profound impact on your life. I'd like to welcome Scott Sloan. Scott is the on-air personality at 700 WLW Radio, based here in the Midwest. WLW has 275 plus million monthly listeners and covers Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and even little slices of Michigan. And it's simulcast on XM Radio on channel 173. Welcome, Scott.
Cut that out. We're not on XM anymore.
You're not anymore? Okay.
Nope. That's all.
Okay. Ohio, Kentucky, and Michigan.
Pick it up from the top.
Okay. Ohio, Kentucky. Welcome.
Hey, it's good to be here. Wow, that's making me nervous. I had no idea we had that many listeners.
You had no idea you were that big of a deal.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So the reason you're on here is because I wanted the opportunity to turn the mic, because every Wednesday at 10:30 on 700 WLW, and you can tune in live on that internet thing you have.
iHeartRadio app.
iHeartRadio app as well.
Absolutely.
I am the career Sherpa on your show, as you named me, every Wednesday morning at 10:35.
She's very good at what she does.
And I wanted to get some control back, and I wanted to be the person to ask the questions. So here we are.
That's fair.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about your illustrious career. With 275 million listeners per month, and I know every one of them is only tuning in to hear you.
Yeah, right.
I know you've got
We're
people
lucky.
Listening in breathless anticipation for the story behind the man.
All right.
Okay, are you ready to bear all?
I want to bear all, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank heavens this is only audio.
Oh, thank God this is.
All right,
You know,
all
check
right.
out the vlog. That's a different
right.
story. Okay.
So you spend a lot of hours a week talking.
Yes.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
I am really dumb. Wait, that's 4 words.
See, there you go. Just proving.
Yeah. No, I think just describe myself in 3 words.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's rather difficult because I think it changes day to day and hour to hour. Simply because I don't know if it's the ADHD. I don't know if it's because I am a man of I have different goals, aspirations, and those change daily. I don't know if that's normal or not. It depends on what day it is, what week it is, what month it is, what year it is. And so priorities change. And and radio certainly is my bread and butter, there's no doubt. But, I'm watching the industry change, but it's always changed. Ever since I began doing this.
How many years ago?
I went to college at Bowling Green State University in Ohio and graduated there in 1989. And luckily, outside of some bouts of unemployment, I have been on the air ever since.
What are some of the biggest changes you've seen in radio since 1989?
Easily, it's the advent of the internet. It's the democratization of what we're doing right here. Podcasts, for example. I mean, technically, I am on my competition if you think about it, because it wasn't long ago where you turn on the radio, you get information, entertainment, maybe some sports, and now everything is so fractionalized, which I think is a wonderful thing. It's a great challenge too, because it's taken that gatekeeping, that power outside of a chosen few, and given it to the people. Journalism is the same way. That's why journalism is going through the strife it is right now, is because it's become democratized, which is bad because, we talk about quote unquote fake news, whatever you want to believe about that, versus things like the Arab Spring, and it's wonderful to see people be able to be their own journalists, to report live and give the unvarnished truth out. So it's always been changing, but I think more rapidly in my lifetime over the last probably even 5 years, I would say that we are evolving more towards spoken word, which is available in podcast form. Podcasts are huge outside of what I do on the radio. And so to answer your question, that's why it's always changing, is because it seems like every day there's something new, a new component, a new piece of the puzzle that's changing and going away. And I know some people complain and lament about the old days, older people, not you, of course.
Not me, of course.
Older folks will, I'm back in the old days. Yeah. I remember. Yeah, well, the old days are gone. The old days now, it's changing so quickly that the old days aren't 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The old days were 2 hours ago. That's how quickly everything's changing.
Yeah. What do you miss most about your earliest days in radio?
I think today, and this is probably true for yourself or any social influencers, because technically I'm a social influencer, even if not on media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that too, is the fact, and I think most people in the public eye would do this, is the fact that it's 24/7, 365. It is nonstop. Before you get out there, you'd be done, that'd be it. And
that's
now
what you
it's
miss.
social media. It's constant.
So you miss the sort of the start and end, the bookends.
There's no start and end. The whole
right.
everything is on, turned up to 11 all the time.
How was your life different back then when you were operating in radio during those days when there was no social media?
It was easier and harder, and by that I mean that social media, the demands of that, and keeping up with digital, and it's even when you're not on the air, you're still on the air because there's blogs and. So back then that was easy. Now the flip is it's much easier today to prepare a show because of the internet, because I can find information out in 10, 15 seconds that before you didn't have privy to, and get much more in depth and much more granular on things if I want to. And I can find that information out in seconds, whereas 20 years ago, you didn't have the internet, and so it would all be opinion-based. There'd be a lot more rumors. So, I know today the atmosphere is about a spin and putting a spin on certain ideas and topics, but it's so easy to find the truth out today. Now, most people don't have time to do that, mind you, and I feel like, obviously I have an opinion, but I try to get the facts out there and make a decision based on that or a conclusion based on the facts, but that's what I'm saying is it's so much easier to find that stuff. You don't have time to do it because your life is also 365 nonstop. So it's good and bad, like anything in life. Though it's not the good old days; it's the better old days now.
So what occurs to me is back when you were a fresh-faced 20, 30-year-old.
It makes
back
you think
in
I'm not
the
right now.
90s.
On radio, you're always a fresh-faced.
You're always fresh-faced. It was very much one-way communication.
There's no doubt
right?
about it.
I mean,
That's what it is.
you said what you said.
Yes.
You went home. You might run into somebody at the store who might say, well, I disagreed with you.
Right.
To me, what occurs to me is the big part of what's changed is it's coming right back at you from everybody with a computer or a phone.
Well, the show it's 3 hours, but it's 24 hours, right? Because of that, because Twitter.
Yeah.
People can hit you back on Twitter. But I think for talk radio anyway, that has always been the allure about talk radio is that it's a two-way street. Whereas you can write an editorial, I know you had Paul Daugherty on before, you can write an editorial opinion piece, but I can't fire back to the writer of that after I read it. Mm-hmm. Whereas talk radio, if I'm talking about something, I can call in and discuss it in real time, which essentially that's what the internet is, right? Is people will get in on chat rooms and the like, or comment sections and go to war with each other.
Yeah.
Twitter, you're going back and forth in real time. Facebook, even, it's toxic. And and I like to say that talk radio was toxic long before it became hip. You kids have no idea.
That's right. So I was, I love to see, I don't know if you've ever seen the segment on Jimmy Kimmel where he has people read the mean tweets.
Yeah.
People, and there was a special NFL version first today with Tom Brady and a bunch of NFL guys reading back the mean tweets that people had said about him. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty funny. And some of them were just so stupid. But there's a way, and as they showed the tweets, it was like you could see who tweeted it. And so those people were probably beside themselves that their heroes were reading these tweets. Yeah. And I love how he brings it back around, and also how ridiculous people sound.
Yes.
How petty and ridiculous.
There's no question.
One of them was, Tom Brady, I hope your dog eats chocolate and poops all over your something. And he couldn't even keep a straight face. So what when you get that clap back, when you get those tweets or those comments, did it take you a while to learn how to receive that and not be like, WTF, buddy?
Not really. I mean, I'll get something. I'll be fired up about it. But after a while, it just kind of rolls off your water.
But did it take a while to get there? So when it first started, where people were
no, not really. I mean, but you're always taking arrows in this business, and if you have thin skin, the number one thing is. I guess in 3 words, not too seriously. That would be the one constant in my life. And you asked at the open, 3 words,
Love
not
it.
Too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. I know people in this business, both in and out, and used to be, and they take themselves way too seriously. Like what they say or what they do for a living is so important. I'm a grown-ass man, and I sit in a room for 3 hours, and I talk to myself. I have no idea. It's like what we're doing right here.
Exactly.
We're sitting here in a room, and there's 2 microphones and a bottle of water, and you've got notes, and I have no idea. You have no idea listening to people listening to this,
exactly.
But somehow we think it's important. I mean, what kind of occupation affords a grown man to sit in a room and talk to himself for 3 hours? And then they look at it like, wow, that's really, it's the stupidest job ever. Stupid.
When you first started, think back 89, 90, early, did it take a while for your skin to thicken up, or have you always been that way?
Oh, yeah, it takes a while. I mean, when you're young, everything bothers you. But then, once you get old, like past 30, you don't care anymore.
Yeah. Oh, geez. How about when you're 40, 50?
Yeah.
no
How is
further.
that working for you?
Oh, it's great. Yes,
Enough about me, sweetheart. How about you? What about you?
I'm still vertical. That's all that matters. When you look back, and I might have you tell the story that you told on the show this week when I was there. Those
What about the pants
shit
thing?
Moments, like when you decide
I
to
thought
wear
it was
pants.
a time where
Yeah, when you decide to start
I
wearing
walked
pants.
in on you in the restroom.
Oh God! Stop. It's gonna take me a while to
Is
get that
different?
visual
Which
out
story
of
are
my
we
mind.
talking about now?
When you said to yourself, "Holy shit, what have I done?" When you thought you took the wrong job, and indeed
was a
you
holy shit
did.
moment.
Tell me about that moment.
So I think, and it's good because I thought it was just a radio thing, but you told me everybody's done this.
Everybody's
at
done
some
it.
time. So this was back in the early 1990s. We were in, and how it works is it used to be a very transient occupation. It's not as much anymore because people get fired and they find something else to do because the economy's good.
Okay.
Before it's like I'm in a radio and people would try to get out of radio, but they get sucked back in because there's a certain culture to it.
Yeah, and you'll go to any little
station.
tiny
You move
town
around and you're trying to
anywhere.
move up the ladder. And
Yeah.
that's why I said the beauty part about today, bringing it back, is that you don't have to do that anymore. If you have a voice and you get online and do what you're doing, companies will find you. They'll
Right.
give you money to do your podcast, the whole thing. So anyway, this was back in the day, and you'd have to travel around. So we were just starting out, and it was like the first job we had out of college. My partner and I, we did a morning show at the college station, and we got lucky enough because we knew somebody. We got a job in a big city in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We had no idea what we're doing. I mean, none. The program director at the time, this is like 1990, he's like, oh, yeah, we're going to mold you. And this is a station that went through, I want to say it was something like 12 morning shows in 2 years. I mean, it was
There you go.
a
Red
revolving
flag.
door.
Now you know that.
But you're
But
young,
back then, right. Yeah, you're like,
hell,
I'm going to be okay.
I'm going from college to a big market. Like,
Yeah.
I skipped all the BS. This is the greatest. They were making
Yeah.
like 20 grand a year, and there's no marketing, and the program director's a cokehead, and my partner's scared
A
to go to the...
cokehead?
Oh, totally. So this was back, and it doesn't happen, it probably does, but back in the old, like in the 80s, the record labels would come in to meet with the program and music directors and give them, in order to play the music, it's not technically payola, but like, oh, they're playing our stuff. Yeah, here's a bag of Coke. Or
Okay.
here's,
Okay, nice.
we're going to go out with some
Okay.
hookers or
Is
something.
Is that why you have your hand out every time I walk into the studio?
That's why I'm always going like that. No,
you got?
I saw what that did, and I've never, ever tried
Yeah.
because this guy, so after a while, he's like, oh, I'm going to mold you the whole thing. And he was new, too. He came from some like Scranton or some BS city like that. Anyway, he comes in and like all of a sudden became a Coke fiend. And we were there like a year and a half, 2 years. And it got to the point where he was so manic that we had one bathroom on the 22nd floor. And there was an executive bathroom like on the 6th floor. My partner, in order to go to the bathroom, you'd have to go past his office. My partner would not poop in the building. This guy would not shit in the building. He'd have to go down, all the way down to the 6th floor to take a dump because he was so scared this guy was a lunatic. Anyway, we got fired because the ratings weren't doing anything. And then like a few weeks later, he got fired. So it was, but anyway, that was the first experience we had in this stupid business. Went to another market, did okay. We wanted to get out. It was in Charleston. We weren't really happy.
West Virginia?
Yeah. My folks, we were there for about 3 years and did pretty well, but we didn't know what we were doing still. So my morning show partner and my wife, who we got married right after college, we then moved to Youngstown, Ohio. Because my parents were living in Warren. Youngstown, Warren's the same city. I went to high school there for a year after we moved from New York State to there. So I was only there like a year. But because we were thinking about having a kid and, wanted to be near my mom and dad. So we finally go, okay, well, that's pretty close. It's in the same city. So we get this job at the station. Everybody's like, man, you probably shouldn't take this job. So we talk, you interviewed, we drive it. The first time it should have been is we roll in and like the interview is a 2 hour. So they're driving us around the town or whatever, showing us places. And they don't really, usually when you do a market visit, they have the station on when they're driving around. They didn't have our station. They had competition on going, yeah, we want you to listen to these guys because we're like, okay, well, whatever. And this is before the internet and streaming and all that stuff too as well. So this is Youngstown, Ohio, early 1990s, we were rolling. So we like signed the contract. We're like, yeah, let's do this. Get the hell out of here. At least we're in, we're back in Ohio. It's good. Because my partner at the time was from Cleveland, so it's great for him. So I'll never forget this. It's pouring down rain, right? And we're driving. We drove like all night. We're rolling in maybe 10 o'clock at night to stay at my mom and dad's house, my wife and I. And it's raining. So as we get closer to Youngstown, turn, the station on, whatever. I forget what the frequency was. And so we're getting closer. We're like 20 miles outside the city. Can't hear the station. 5 miles out of the city, can't hear the station. I'm like, What's going on here? Get inside the city limits, still can't hear it. Well, we just got over the city line. We literally were in the town. We just were getting in my parents' neighborhood and finally could pick up the station with static.
Yeah.
Now the station, it turns out, was way outside of Youngstown, but they're trying to compete there. And I literally was sick to my stomach to the point where my wife and I she's trying to console me saying, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. She's sleeping. I'm laying in a pull-out sofa in my parents' basement with the bar in my back and all this thinking, what the hell did I just do?
Yeah.
I just quit my job when we were doing okay and the ratings, they were happy with us, to come here where I'm working at a station where no one can hear it.
But
it worked out.
And it's part of your story.
Yeah.
And I think we all, when we look back on the key moments that took us to places, that took us to each place in our journey, several of those key moments really sucked. They were really I learned, I always think about, I learned how to be a manager from the worst ones I had, not from the best ones.
Right.
And further,
yes.
I learned how to be a female manager, kind of growing up in my career in the 80s and 90s, from the two worst managers I ever had, who were women. And they were so easily offended that it made everybody around them, walk on eggshells, because you just never knew what they were somebody was going to say to offend them. And I'm pretty difficult to offend, as you know. And I thought, wow, that's not a way to build camaraderie. There's certain things that are just inappropriate.
Well, we always say we'll do it differently. We'll do it differently.
Yeah. So I think sometimes we learn more from the experiences that we said. Like in that case, huge red flag, right? Everybody was warning you against it.
Yep.
There was no free. You had to get probably in the station's parking lot to actually hear it, and you took it anyway. And so that probably every decision after that, you look back and say, "What did I learn from that? I'm going to ask more questions. I'm going to trust people's input. Doesn't mean I won't take it, but at least I'll go in with my eyes open, and I'm going to know what I'm getting into." And so I think sometimes we stumble in our careers and we think, oh gosh, I'm never going to get back on my feet. Right. But clearly you did, because now you have 275 million people breathlessly tuning in.
But the thing is, right, is like and if you're younger and you're hearing this and maybe you did this or maybe you're about to do this, the sauce as you get older, it's like all that happened for a reason. I really believe that those things make you could not do what you're doing now if it's your dream job or on your way to your dream job without those things. And thinking about that now, it's funny. I still remember like shitting bricks at the time, but it didn't make it any easier.
Yeah.
But it all worked towards, there's an old adage, I'm sure you've heard it, success has 1,000 followers. Failure is an orphan. I don't know if I entirely believe that, because you learn more through failure, I think, than success is easy because, okay, you hit a certain level. It's not easy to get there, but once you get there, you know what I'm talking about. But I think there's so much more there when you fail, and you learn so much more. Yeah. Than you do when you're on top, because you don't hear the noise.
That's right.
You have problems, but they're diminished because of the fact you're succeeding at what you're doing in a career.
Yeah. And I think even reframing something that didn't go the way you planned,
right,
as just another piece of information that's going to help you moving forward.
Yep.
You didn't necessarily, maybe you failed at something, quote unquote, that wasn't right for you anyway. And so there's certainly no harm in that.
Nope.
You have to continue on this journey to find the place that you are the best fit. And how we do that is we kiss a lot of frogs along the way. It's just a part of the process. So
that's why when millennials and Gen Zers say, "God, I'm so old and cranky," this is why.
Yeah, I know.
This is why.
I earned my old and crankiness.
Right. I'm an asshole because I've earned it.
That's right. I'm get off my lawn guy because I have the scars that put me there. So when you talk 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for multiple years, there are certainly times when you think to yourself, oops, I wish I hadn't said that. Yeah. Tell me about some of those for you.
So I'm going to have to go back way, way back. This is when I first started in talk at a station in Toledo, Ohio. And this really set me up in a sense that good and bad career-wise, because it put me on the radar in a good and a bad way. I was doing, and there it was more like just trying to figure out what you're doing, because the station was really small and it had no direction, no leadership, and basically we weren't designed to win. We have a cluster of stations, and we had an KISS type station that's on there. Most markets have a KISS, and that was the big money maker. And there are a couple of them, but we were, and this is in the advent of talk radio too. Rush Limbaugh had just hit his stride and was blowing up and things like that. But then they tried to get local politics and talk, and that's what it was back in the day. And it's evolved, especially at LW. It's much better. But anyway, you're trying to make a name for yourself, do stuff, and be controversial. Controversy sold back then, and at the time, we did it was a bit, and it was a really, really bad attempt at humor that involved political figures, right, and civil rights leaders too. And I don't want to rehash it, but I made a comment that literally put me on the national radar, and to this day I regret it. And it was terrible because. I thought, okay, well, my career's over now at this point, and I was able to get out of it. But I think today you don't have that opportunity. There's no, you can say something and you're trying to grow, and comics do it all the time, and that's kind of where I was coming from, being a comedic background. And it didn't work, and it was an abysmal failure. But I learned so much from that too, and really came to terms with who I was as a person also as well. I kind of grew up at that moment, and I learned a lot from it. But I think today, especially with the cancel culture, it's like there's no opportunity to survive anything like that, like a misstep, a misstatement, a misquote, something you said, because you'll be attacked in all directions online instantly, because that's what they're looking for, right? And we know that there's evil and awful people in the world that believe horrible things. Joking about a horrible thing or attempting to joke, failed joke at something is different than somebody actually being evil, like, making a joke about race versus someone who's a white supremacist. There's a huge cavern between those two things, and yet today we lump all those things together. There's no chance redemption anymore. And I think that really is hurting society, that there's no do-over, that, okay, you know what, you said you did something, there was an action, you were somewhere, you did something you shouldn't, and the apology isn't enough anymore. It's like we have to destroy that person. They're not allowed to breed. They can't live anymore. They have to go and essentially be sent off to the land of misfit toys for the rest of their life, rather than a shot at redemption. And that's anti-American in my opinion, because we should always give someone a shot at redemption. We talk about with career people who are in jail. I mean, we want you to get out of prison and redeem yourself, be reformed. We'll give people like that a chance. And yet, if you say something or do something that the public perceives as bad, you'll never have that chance again.
Right.
It's easier to get away with murder, I think, than a misstatement.
Yeah. So have you had to then sort of kind of reset your filter in terms of
you got to be a lot more.
It's not just a lot more aware.
It's not as, I'll tell you what, controversy used to sell back in the day. Controversy doesn't sell. It's looked at as the enemy, I think, at least from a sense of, I've listened to podcasts too, and I don't hear anything that's as outrageous as you used to hear. Early Stern, for example, the stuff that he does. And I don't listen to Howard anymore, with XM, and I obviously busy doing a thing. But, I think a lot of people think shock jock, and that's Howard Stern. He's the greatest of all time. And you hear that and you go, wow, the stuff he said, he wouldn't say on XM anymore, simply because it's just a different climate.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different climate. And you've got to be able, if you're going to have longevity in this business or any business, you've got to read the tea leaves. You've got to hang around with younger people to figure out where it's going.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best lesson I can pass along in broadcasting and probably any career, an evolved career, and that is pay attention to the young people.
Yeah.
See what they're doing and how they're acting.
Right.
Don't dress like them because you look like a dick.
Don't
wear skinny jeans
wear a
and
hoodie.
a little pork pie hat or whatever. Come on, you look like a jerk. Don't be a jerk.
Yeah, don't dismiss them. They're the ones that are setting. You
guys, y'all got to pay for our retirement, so I'm cool with you.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take your money to pay our Social Security.
And I get back in the day, people were threatened by diversity, but we're a diverse country. We always have been, and it's always changing and evolving. I think it's wonderful to see. We need more. And I've advocated a long time in talk radio. It's a sausage fest. We've got all sorts of men behind the mic. We don't need any more old white conservative men. We're good there. Okay, we need people with diverse viewpoints. We need people of color. We need more women behind the microphone. I've been trying to help because I believe in paying forward. People have helped me along the way, and I'm working with people like that are younger and diverse, because those views need to be expressed in talk radio. That's the problem in talk radio, especially. People are like, oh, it's all pro-Trump stuff. Not me necessarily. I don't talk that much about it. I will a little bit, but it's more about life and just stuff people care about rather than the nonsense of politics. And talk radio has painted itself in a corner for a long time like that. We need to get more diverse viewpoints out, which is great with podcasting, the internet.
Right, exactly.
Everyone has
that's
a voice
the answer
out
to that.
there.
That's right.
Yeah, no question.
So how would you answer this sentence? I'm at my best when?
I think I'm at my best when I am, I think, under pressure,
Okay.
under stress.
Okay.
If I got a lot of things going, I'm pretty sharp.
Okay. So when you got a lot of balls in the air, you're like rocking and rolling, keeping them all up, moving along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So does that then, so you're on the radio, all of a sudden some breaking news comes in.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. So you're one of those
it.
walk right into the fire
Yeah.
kind of people.
I want to be that guy that's in the chair doing that.
Yeah. Okay. And so you want the ball at the foul
Give me the ball.
line when it's tied and yeah.
Yeah, in radio, absolutely. I think, I love handling the breaking news stuff, and there's been many times in my show where it's happened, and I really, being in that moment and trying to disseminate and filter all this information.
Yeah.
And I think the ADHD helps a lot with that, too. Like I remember when the Boston bombings went, that was one, too, where I was monitoring basically in one channel in my head. So in radio, we're not wearing them here, but we have headsets on, headphones. And TV, when they show people on radio, it's like us sitting here with no headphones on and nice, beautiful studio. All right, it's a shithole generally. It's a studio, and the guy sitting there is a guy maybe not paying attention to the other side. If you have a producer, usually it's just by yourself. But you got headphones on, so you can hear yourself, hear the callers, hear whatever. So in one earpiece, my right, I had them feeding me, or I had actually took it myself off my phone, and I was listening to our stations in Boston in one ear, watching 3 TV channels with my eyes in the studio. And I've got the closed captioning on so I could read stuff. Our news people are talking to me in talkback, and I'm talking at the same time on the air. But I'm getting all these different pieces of information, and it's just coming out. It was real. We did that during the Fifth Third Bank shooting in Cincinnati. Same thing. We have everyone in town sadly is having mass shootings, and during that it was the same thing. What's happening? Where's traffic? Calling play-by-play off the TV. Okay, this area of town, but and we're advantageous for us because we're local, obviously too. But anytime we have because we're such a big station, if we have a big crisis like that, I really like doing that kind of stuff.
Okay, great.
That's thrilling.
Yeah.
I hate the fact that people are dying.
Of course. But you like to be the one.
At the end of it, 9/11 was a defining moment. I was on nationally at that time after the September 11th attacks. I had just started at the station in Cincinnati at WOW we're talking about, and we were tasked with, okay, well, we're going to go wall to wall on all our stations, because no one wants to hear Led Zeppelin or Christina Aguilera after 3,000 people were killed.
Right.
And so all our stations went to talk at that time for, I think, a lot of them for at least a month, many more for 2 or 3 months. And so we were part of a national network talked to Glenn Beck, who, does TV. He started on the same time I did. So I was doing the night shift at the time from Toledo and then Cincinnati. So I was on all the time. And I remember, just literally driving home and driving to work every day bawling for probably I had no other release to get all that emotion and all that angst and the stress. And it's just something, it had to come out, and it was probably 3 or 4 months of doing that. And it was an absolute blur. But that's when I kind of knew I'd like doing this.
Fantastic. Yeah. We talk sometimes when I'm on your show about side gigs, about side hustles, about the portfolio career, which is the people who do more than one thing to create sort of their career picture that's the best one for them. And anyone who listens to you knows that your 9 to 12 job every day is with your mouth, but you've got a second thing that you do with your hands. Tell us about that.
I'm a professional juggler. And
Mime. I thought you were a mime.
Well, it doesn't really involve hands.
Yes, it does. If you're in a box
I learned
and you're
from
trying to get out.
You do the Evolve Career podcast. You're a career coach, the BaukeGroup.com. You've got you drive Uber. You also you're a professional. What do you do with the bowls again?
The bowls?
The bowl. You get the bulls. You take the what is it from the bulls? You explain. You do it better.
Bulls?
You take the bull semen.
Oh God! I'm thinking
you?
The Chicago Bulls. Well, of course, I'm a Bulls cheerleader.
Julie Bauke. See, now you're tapping on the table.
So tell me that's.
All right.
So you build things. You are a handyman.
I do. I really do. So this started when I was a kid. I was the child who took everything apart. Like every toy I had, I took apart to see how it works. Drive my parents berserk.
Could you then put it back together?
No.
Yeah, you just leave it.
But I want to see how it worked. And then I wouldn't put it back together, drive him crazy. And I had my dad's tools, and I'd lose his tools, and he was all pissed. But I was part of the generation where it's like, listen, I think my dad probably made more than $40,000 a year, 3 kids, the whole thing. And he was a blue collar guy. He had an opportunity. He was in the Navy, and he always had all sorts of jobs going. He was always side hustling before side hustling was a thing. But the thing was, hey, you're going to be the first one in the family to go to college. And I had no choice in the matter. A lot of kids in the 80s didn't. And I went. I'm glad I did. I met my wife and a whole bunch of other things too as well. But I always had like, if I weren't doing this, I would definitely be in the trades or something like that, because I always loved tools and building stuff and how stuff's put together, taking it apart. And I watched my wife's dad build 3 houses himself. Himself. I'd say he didn't pour the concrete or the roof, but all the woodworking. And I watched these things because you'd go to their house and be like, in the 90s and go, geez, he's got the subfloor, it's just plywood, and you're getting splinters in your feet. And he goes, I want to put a wall here. But over the last 20 years, I've seen him build this house, and it was gorgeous. He milled all his own trim, and it was. And I watched, and I went, okay, you know what? I think I could do this. And so started with a few tools, and now I've got a huge shop. I just built a 35 by 40 workshop for moving all the tools out of my basement and into a dedicated space now, and doing some cabinetry work and things like that. We own a bunch of rentals. My wife's in real estate now, and I love doing that. And people are like, "Gosh, are you tired of people call, I need a toilet repaired or whatever." I always like doing that kind of stuff and being handy and be able to figure out problems and look at a room and go, okay, we can do this or not do this, or update stuff and things like that. And so
could you see
I like
yourself
the
doing
challenge.
it full time? Like if you could rewind the clock, is that something that you think
Oh,
you
yeah.
would have enjoyed?
No question. Well, I kind of do it full time.
Yeah, it sounds like
time
it.
now. I'm really busy with that stuff, so it's having 2 full-time jobs. But yeah, it's been great synergy between our businesses. My wife was actually in television news for the longest time. She quit because it was 80-hour weeks, and that business is tough too. And she was really good at what she did too. When no matter where we'd move because of radio, she'd find a better job. And anyway, long story short, she stayed home with the kids for 5, 6, 7 years. And then, okay, we want to reinvent ourselves, and got into real estate because we thought, okay, we want to buy a couple houses and flip them and see how that goes. I think we're ready to do this. And then the market fell. The market crashed in 2008. And I'll be damned if her business didn't grow. I mean, she was stagnant year to year. A lot of agents got out of business, and she grew. I think for 5, 6 years, she doubled her business. And we looked at it and went, well, this is not a part-time job anymore. All of a sudden it's become, and now she's her own broker for RE/MAX, and she's hiring agents and the like. And it's been an incredible journey. It really, really has. And so
great.
we have, there's some complementary things that we do. We get the real estate, she can do that. I do the fixing up maintenance, and I've got my son in that area now, and he's helping out.
Yeah, I think you bring out.
My daughter's a deadbeat, but my son says,
I'll send her to me. I'll fix her up. It's interesting because you had an interest in that early, and then you came back to it and added it into your career world.
Yeah.
But then I love how you and your wife have kind of integrated what you do, taken the things that you do in common. It's not like you're spending 40 plus hours a week together, which is probably a good thing. For most couples it is. Yeah. But, you've got some complementary and overlapping sort of things you do together. And so you really have this wonderful sort of family career portfolio that the beauty of that is if it all went away tomorrow, if your radio thing went away tomorrow, if they decided not to renew your contract or you decided you were done.
I just signed 4 years again, so I'm good.
Okay, 4 more years. Okay, in 4 years, if that happened, you could glide right into, you don't have to start something up from the ground up.
No.
You've got something already established that you would simply sort of reconfigure your time and how you spend it.
No question.
And everybody should have something like that.
I don't. I'm the last guy to be preachy and be a Tony Robbins motivational speaker kind of dude. But let me set you straight on something. If you go, oh man, I don't know if this career is going to be here. My job sucks. I hate things. Like there's something inside you that you can do. There's something you like to do that you do better than anybody else. You have a passion for. Sitting on your ass and watching The Bachelor is not going to achieve that goal. Sitting there and going through Facebook for the umpteenth time and going, "God, my job." Walking in there on a Monday and going, "My job sucks. I hate my job." Okay, great. I know a lot of people I work with, even in radio, that do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the signal there is you can bitch and moan about it, but is that going to change your lie? And I know it sounds holier than thou, and I don't want to come across that as that, but it's as simple as that, is going, okay, what am I good at? How can I leverage my talent? What do I want to do versus what I'm doing right now? And how can I transition that in the next 5 years? I mean, 20 years ago, I'd be sitting here going, yeah, I'm on radio. Well, what else are you going to do? it took some people I've seen in the business to get fired.
Yeah.
And I see where it's going. I'm still pro in the business. I don't know if these towers where you see radio signals come out in 10 years, if they're still going to be around, because the real estate they're on is more valuable than the tower, than the signal itself. We pulled the curtain back.
Yeah.
We're selling the properties and leasing it back because the real estate is expensive. It's worth a lot of money where these towers are. So I don't know if AM FM is going to be around, how much longer it'll be around, and it probably will be because it's just the way it is. But obviously we're moving more towards digital and online, and whether I'm on doing a show on an app on your phone or your car or whatever tomorrow brings, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's headed that way, obviously, but if you think in those terms like, oh my gosh, it's going to be dead. No, people always have what we're doing here. People will always have a need for spoken word, whether it's on the radio, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's something else. So that demand will always be there. Be good at what it is you do. So you look at your career and go, okay, I like the career, but it's changing, and I'm really weird. It feels
how do
weird
I change with it?
Yeah, in 30 years, it's not the same, and
Right.
it's not supposed to be the same. It's supposed
not
to
going
change.
to change to meet you.
Yeah, if
You
you're
need to
exhausted
change.
in what you do, then find something that excites you again, and even. If you're 50, that's not too old.
No.
If you're 60, it's way too old. But 50,
Thank you.
but that's what you want to get out of bed in the morning, right?
Right, right.
And you're going, well, okay, you're only on 3 hours a day. Yeah, but I get about 7 hours of sleep. The rest is spent pretty much working at this point because I'm doing different things. And so if someone's listening and goes, wow, I really am in a rut, I can't stand, you can get out. It's just finding that little thing that you're good at that no one else is doing, or maybe somebody's doing, but they're not doing it the right way.
Or hire a coach.
Or hire a coach that can get you on the right path. Because man, the biggest thing with that is getting out of your own way, getting out of your own head.
And I do believe that there are some people, their identity, they've developed their identity around being that complainer. They get some need met by being the one that people, the one that complains all the time. If you don't do things you don't get something out of.
Right.
You don't get some need met.
Right.
And so, it's just, it's crazy. And
then find that and
got
exploit.
it.
Now, it's going to take a lot, you're going to lose out on a lot of screwing around time, drinking time, socializing time, Facebook time, bachelorette time, all that stuff. But at the end, you're growing something because, we know this. There's not going to be that social security net, and it's not enough anymore.
Nope,
and
it's not.
You got to feather your own nest because no one's going to do it for you. And by the
That's
time
right.
you're 50, it's too late. So the time to start is when you're younger, looking at what you really want to do. But and it doesn't have to be a big money maker either. I mean, I started out doing the remodeling stuff. It's making a couple bucks here or there, and now it's grown something that's a little bit more tangible. But that's my point. It's just
your safety net.
You got to start
someday,
somewhere. Yeah.
It might be your main thing.
And you may meet somebody doing something that totally turns your mind to a different direction. Don't be
Everybody
afraid to,
listening has that potential. It's not easy. There's no career fairy. And it takes a lot of hard work. But
you just find you stumble into it along the way.
You can. If you just pay attention to what you're good at.
Yeah.
What do people come to you for? What do people not come to you for? Stay away from those things.
What do you see and go, wow, I really like to do that? Well, take a class, learn more about it, read about it. Go on YouTube and learn all you can. You want to, I like cars. Okay, well, what can I do with a car thing? Can I detail cars? Can I own a dealership someday? Can I
restore
be a
classic
mechanic?
Cars?
Yeah, there's money in that side hustle.
Yeah. So the typical life expectancy of an American Caucasian male is just over 78 years.
Wow,
So
I feel bad for Caucasian males.
I'll let you do the math. Someday when you're gone and people are talking about you, how do you hope they'll complete the sentence? The most profound impact Scott made in his life was?
I would say using my experiences to help other people, or using my platform to help people.
Okay.
That would be it. But honestly, I know a lot of people care about their legacy, and it's like, are you going to be cremated, or are you going in a casket? What are you doing, Bauke?
Cremated.
You're going to cremate it? Why is that?
I don't know. I don't. I mean, I might have my ashes buried somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't. There's not any place I can think of. I want them sprinkled. I don't know. I just don't want to take up any more space.
Huh. Interesting.
Plus, I want to donate all my organs, and then they
That's
can
me too.
cremate
I'm
what's
getting
left.
everything. Science, organs, take what you can,
Take what
harvest
you-
it out, take the ashes, flush them in the toilet. I don't give a shit. You know why? Because here's the thing, and it's so narcissistic. I never got this. Is like, we think we're so important, but we're not. Because they're sticking in the ground. Okay, there's a headstone. Great. Okay, your kids are going to come visit you. Are their kids going to come visit you? Maybe when mom and dad make you, but in a generation, no one. And it's not. Here's this land. You got a headstone there. It's like, no one's coming in 20, 30 years to pay homage to your dead ass. It's not going to happen. Get over yourself. Quit taking yourself so seriously. Give your organs to science. Donate your body to science. Let a medical college cut you up a little bit. Give your corneas to those who don't have corneas. Give your skin to people who don't have skin. and you're dead at that point. Hopefully your impact is made in the world, not after it. And so that's the way I look at it. I'm going to leave it all on the table.
All right.
You know what I'm going to do? Because I can, I'm going to leave it all on the table. Watch this.
Oh, my God.
Every time I touch the table, she
You
gives me that mom look.
I know. I do have the mom look down.
You know why? Because you only live once, baby. I'm going to do this because you only live once.
Oh, my God. This was such a good idea. Whose idea was this? Are you ready to play 2 questions? One deep and one shallow? Yes. The answer to that question is yes.
I
Here's
thought
your
I had a
deep one
choice.
first. What breaks your heart?
What breaks my heart is the Bills losing in Super Bowls.
How did you become a Bills fan, by the way?
I grew up in Buffalo.
You did? Okay, I missed that. I missed that somehow.
I want my
know
teams,
you and
whether it's Buffalo, Cincinnati, wherever I'm living,
when the Bills.
I want.
Okay, that was a shallow answer to a deep question,
hard.
but it's okay.
Well,
It's
I
all right,
wanted
I'll
to
let
get
you
this
sleep.
over with, so I answered both.
Okay.
No. Here's what breaks my heart. What really breaks my heart is when people deliberately break their word and are in stuff for themselves or insincere. Everything's about them, and I think people who take advantage of children, of the elder, of the less, those people are vulnerable. That drives me crazy.
Okay. One shallow. What's a food that you've never been able to eat that most people like?
Eggs.
Eggs. Okay. That was easy. I'm going to ask you another shallow one just because you answered that too easily. What fictional character?
You never asked me eggs. Why eggs?
Why eggs?
Because I think when I was a kid and where I grew up in Western New York, why are you making that face?
Go ahead.
We had, it was steel industry, right? And you drive past the coke plants, and there was this sulfur smell sometimes that they let off. And I must have already been sick or something, and so in my brain, it's like I associate that with eggs. And I remember, like, like an egg yolk, not a problem, but the white of the eggs with the sulfur literally made me sick to the point where my old man, who was kind of he was a sadist somewhat, he thought it was funny to make me eat eggs because he knows I was going to throw up. And so it's like, well, you got to fish your eggs, you're not leaving. And I'd be crying and stuff like that. Well, yeah, and then I'd never
It's a traumatic childhood moment.
Today, I could eat an egg, but it's got to have stuff like cheese in it or salsa or something like that. So.
I'm kind of laughing because mine,
I hate eggs.
I like eggs only if the yellow and white's mixed up together. But if they're like hard-boiled eggs,
I used to be able to take like the yolk and dunk my toast in it, put bacon on it. But just I can't even do that anymore. So yeah, an omelet, good omelet, I'm down.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
but
sure.
Just something
you have all that other good
like,
stuff in it. No.
And in other recipes, it's fine. I can eat eggs. I'm not allergic to them.
Right. Yeah.
That's
no, I get it. I get it. If you could choose your own nickname, what would it be?
My own. If I could choose my own nickname,
yeah. Give yourself a nickname. What would it be?
I would say. Let me think here. How PG is this?
Human tripod.
No. I was going to say. No. I don't like nicknames.
Oh,
that's a bad question.
That is such a cop out.
No, I think nicknames. People call me Sloaney just because of the last name, but yeah, I think a nickname's earned. You can't
like
pick your own
dumbass?
nickname. Dumbass is fine. I've answered to worse.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you're listening and you haven't fallen asleep.
Is that a cop-out? Was that a cop-out answer?
Yeah, no, that's all right. And haven't changed to a different podcast yet, and you aren't listening to Howard Stern or somebody else by now, and you want to hear more of Scott Sloan, you can download the iHeart app or just go online to 700 WLW, and you can listen live. Now, especially the best part of your 15 hours per week is that time from about 10:36 until about 10:50 every Wednesday morning when you're in charge and we talk about the deepest and most pressing career questions of the day. And you make fun of me. And so I've gotten, speaking of tough skin, I've thickened my skin up just by being your career Sherpa. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time today.
That's why they call me Nostradamus.
Nostradamus.
I flipped the table on you. I was like, you know what? Look at you with your own career. Here's Mrs. Evolved career, right? She was in the dead end. She was in a rut. She hated her life, the whole thing. And I turned her around.
You did?
Look at her. She's doing a podcast.
You turned me around.
She's a social media superstar. I fixed Julie Bauke.
I forgot to say thank you. So we'll just end with that. Thanks.
So bitchy sometimes.
So bitchy sometimes. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julie Bauke.
If you enjoyed meeting the Evolved Careerist on today's episode, well, we've got a lot more lined up for you. Subscribe, tell your friends, rate us and write a review. And of course, follow us on social media. But if you're interested in learning more about how you can evolve your career, you can contact us through theevolvedcareer.com or thebaukegroup.com, and that's Bauke. Do you know somebody who'd be a great guest, who has a great career story to tell? Or do you think you qualify? Then email me. My email address is in the podcast description. Until next time, here's to your career happiness.